Greetings YouTube, this is DecKrash, better known as Brandon, and I'm back with another review of Terra. Sorry about how late it was, I'm just a little lazy. But I have not been so lazy as to not remember the names of the characters, finally wrote them down. I do not know why I have such a bad problem with names, but I do, even characters in shows that I remember really well. I have a hard time remembering the names. So, anyway, without further ado, let's go ahead and get this started. So, the most recent episode, for those of you who have seen it or have not, it involves a strange disease that caused a group of scientists at a remote outpost to suddenly lose all their memory. So Jim, that's the husband, goes off with Commander Taylor, who's the character Stephen Lang plays, and goes out to the outpost to see what's going on. Oh, and along with please excuse me, it's not Jim. It was Jim's wife. Please excuse me, Elizabeth. She goes with Commander Taylor along with another soldier to go and see what's going on, while Jim is left behind at Terra to take care of their kids who are having some issues of their own. And that's a pretty delightful little thing in part of the plot, because it shows the little minutiae of their lives, especially regarding the two older children, Josh and Maddie. Josh is the oldest son, Maddie is the middle daughter, and their relationships with the people who they've come to know in Terra. For one thing, from the very first episode, Josh runs into this girl named Sky, who they really just form an immediate bond with, and you can tell there's a lot of chemistry, and no need for me to tell you spoilers. They do kiss in this episode, but if Josh misses the girl that he left behind, so they try to find a way to get her there. So that looks the way that part planned out looks like we're going to be seeing some interesting plot developments. And concerning Maddie, there's also been sort of an ongoing little crush that she's been having on one of the soldiers in Terra, who's also kind of interested in her. He seems to be a genuinely nice, gentlemanly guy. So this is really kind of trying to be a series on Fox that's trying to attract the family crowd, and it seems to be doing a fairly good job. And it mixes in with a cool bit of science fiction. And once again, you have, in a lot of these standard sci-fi series, you have your sci-fi problem du jour, you have your character issue du jour, you have maybe an outside problem involving maybe some special thing about the environment, monster du jour, computer glitch du jour, all that kind of stuff. This one kind of melded all three together in the respect that they were showing a bit of character development for the family. And it really did explore a lot of character development, especially because in the light of showing this disease that was affecting the people at the outpost, when it starts to affect Elizabeth, she starts to forget that she's even on Terra and thinking she's back on Earth, the Earth of her time. And it takes Jim to it's sort of a way that they can build up some interesting some depths to the character, because they learn a little bit about how they ended up falling in love, and also a bit of the history behind Elizabeth and another scientist at Terra named Malcolm, who was Elizabeth's old boyfriend. And because Elizabeth's mind sort of goes back in time because of this disease, she thinks she's still back, in her own time, and that Malcolm's still her boyfriend. And so she has to relearn who she really is in some respects. Now, concerning that character development part, they all did a really great job. This really explored Jim as a character, helping him how to kind of understand what his kids are going to, especially his daughter, who he's a bit protective of, and helping him to it sort of grows with the audience understanding him as a person and as a father, and having to give his daughter advice on being about how to deal with boys. And also this kind of explores a little bit more of the rivalry, not even so much rivalry, it's just sort of this uncomfortable relationship that Jim has with Malcolm, because knowing that Malcolm's an old boyfriend, and it's actually because of Malcolm's getting some special word into where they can actually send messages back through this time rift. And so he sent a special request for Elizabeth. And actually in the previous episode, that kind of really made made Jim kind of upset when he learned that Malcolm had done this because he thought that he thought that Elizabeth was still in prison, and he kind of surmised that Malcolm did this because he wanted Elizabeth back. But Malcolm seems to be a genuinely decent guy, with a little bit of a pompous ass. but of course he had no such intentions. But it still kind of brings things to a head. Now, outside of the whole character development thing, and I'm probably going to have to go back to that because this episode really did a lot of good character development. You have your dinosaur problem du jour, which had to do with these creatures called ovosaurs. The power cables that supplied energy to the outpost, ovosaurs were digging up and chewing on, because he learned later on that nickel, the element nickel, is like catnip to them. And they have this one part in the show where Jim has to actually fight off an ovosaur when he goes looking for Elizabeth at the compound, the outpost, excuse me. And he has to fight off an ovosaur from eating one of the unconscious soldiers. And he breaks open a pipe, and there's like a lot of nickel spills out, and the ovosaur just goes bug nuts, and he has to open the door and let the ovosaur in while trying to get out of there, and the ovosaur is just like chomping at the thing. Ovosaurs look like big, almost like velociraptors, except they have longer faces. You'd probably look them up to probably see what we're talking about. But so that was your dinosaur problem du jour, and of course the big problem was that whatever virus it was causing people to lose their memory. And I don't want to spoil everything, but the way they come about in these standard sci-fi shows, usually they come up with some sort of clue that clues them in on what caused the virus and everything like that. And that actually was pretty standard fare. But they did kind of sneak in a little bit of surprise there, because you think it's one thing that's going to be the cure when it turns out to be the other. Some people wouldn't be all that impressed by it. I thought they did a fairly good job in keeping it a little bit unique in that respect. So, and also, like I said, the virus bit actually helps to develop characters a bit more. So, especially Commander Taylor, which makes him think that he's back on Earth, and he's, of course, a soldier born and bred, and he thinks he's in a war zone somewhere in Somalia, which I thought was pretty cool, because it helped develop his character just a little bit more. You at least learned a little bit about his past. He was the one you didn't get that much development with, but the way he's turning out to be is a really big mystery. So I'm glad to see that, and it really kind of helps people. It helps to develop the story and give little bits and pieces of that secret, that big secret going on. So it helped. It's as a standalone episode, it was actually not that bad. I read a previous review that said that the ending of it was a bit anticlimactic, and I am inclined to agree, because it spent so much time building up characters, so it felt a teensy bit rushed. But as a standalone episode, it worked out fairly well. It kept you interested, wondering what was going to happen. It helped to develop the characters, almost all of them. I think the youngest daughter Zoe, got the least amount of time in this one, unfortunately. But of course, it's still the very beginning of the story, and I think that the series. So I think we're going to be seeing a whole lot of really interesting things happening as time goes on. So I personally can't wait for the rest. So I think that pretty much wraps it up for this little session of my thoughts on Terra Nova. So next week, hopefully, I'll have it out a little bit sooner. And for those of y'all who are actually anticipating my review, so sorry about that. And so as always, guys, leave your comments down below if you feel you need to say something. If you have your own opinions on it, please, as I said before, keep it civil. That's all I ask. And so, as always, this is DecKrash, better known as Brandon. Stay lucky and stay blessed.